And I alluded to this earlier. I think digital transformations are going to fail at an increasing rate for a few reasons. One is, and actually, it's a few reasons that we've already discussed. The increased pace of change. Anytime technology changes as fast as it is, that just puts more pressure on organizations, and it creates more confusion and potential paths to failure, if that makes sense. So there's more, when technology is changing that quickly, organizations have more trouble keeping up with the pace of change. So when you think about that increased pace of change, and then you also add to the fact that you have this mass migration of organizations throughout the world that are moving from their legacy on-prem system to their cloud-based system in a relatively short period of time, in a relatively compressed period of time because of some of the vendor sunsetting issues and just the pace of change in general. That's putting more pressure on organizations to go through change that they're not necessarily ready for, and they're not necessarily prepared to succeed. And so that skill shortage creates more pressure on organization and increases the rate or the probability of failure even more. So you've got to look at all these underlying currents here, these undercurrents in the industry, and say, how does this affect us, and how do we mitigate the risks of all these things we're talking about? And the good news here, it may sound like I'm saying it's all bad news because there are risks and there's challenges, but the good news is there's ways to mitigate those risks and challenges and ways to overcome them. And it's just a matter of being aware of them. With skill shortages, for example, you may have to assume your project's going to take you a little longer than you might otherwise expect, or that might otherwise be realistic. There's all these other things happening that have nothing to do with technology that are also putting pressure on these organizations. And at some point, something's got to give. And oftentimes these technology initiatives end up paying the price, or end up taking longer than expected, or costing more than expected because of all these other internal and external dynamics that are contributing to some of the difficulties that organizations face when they're going through these implementations. So skill shortages, that's something else that I think will be a challenge here in the coming years. But I'm curious to hear from you. What other trends do you see, or what other trends are you most excited about in the digital transformation space? I'd love to hear your thoughts here, whether you're someone implementing ERP systems right now, or whether you're a consultant, or whatever the case may be. I'd love to hear your feedback.